it's Maija here, and this is my second Bookoplathon video. Bookoplathon is a readathon going on throughout the whole of September. If you want to know more, go check out the first video. But that one was my first two rolls where I read my first two books for the readathon, and now we are starting with the third roll and however many rolls I have time to do after that. Let's get right on to the roll. Roll number 3. I got 9 again, at least with different numbers this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I landed on Features a Mystery. And for Features a Mystery, I decided to go with The Hollow by Agatha Christie, which is the next Poirot book that I need to read in my Reading Poirot books in order. A slow project. And it's great to be reading this. I am now about 100 pages in as I'm filming this, because I do not remember this episode from the series. I haven't read this book before, I don't think, and I didn't even read the back, so I didn't even know who was going to be murdered. So far, there's been a bunch of people who have all went to spend the weekend in the country at the same place. So someone has been murdered. I sort of guessed who was going to be murdered, and Hercule Poirot has only just arrived. I am having so much fun with this, and I can't wait to see if I figure out who did it. So I will be back with another update, maybe telling you if I figured it out. I got a couple of packages, so I thought I'd open them on camera. These are all new releases that I've been waiting for, I think 2 weeks for them to ship, which is a bit funny because one of them comes from the UK and one of them comes from the Finnish storefront of a Nordic bookstore. I think the books are in storage like right across the Gulf in Sweden, so for these both to take the same amount of time to reach me is a bit ridiculous. But I'm gonna start with the book depository one. I'm a bit worried about this package because I can feel the books moving inside it, so I am worried about the dust jacket on the hardcover in here. But this contains my most anticipated release, so I'm gonna open it first. I pre-ordered this in January. I don't know if they are doing black edges this time. Apparently not. It's Nona the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This is the third book in the Locked Tomb trilogy. I really enjoyed Gideon the Ninth and I loved Harrow the Ninth, so I can't wait to read Nona. I know a lot of people have already finished this, but it takes me like a month to read one of these when I started. I don't know why that happened with both of the previous books, so I think I'm gonna be reading this very slowly and try to avoid spoilers. But yeah, no black edges this time. I have black sprayed edges on my Gideon the Ninth. I just saw the end papers. So it has a foiled, is that the Locked Tomb on it? And a nice brass colored type, but the end papers are the skulls of the houses. I love it. So now it's time for the books. This has a manga and a hardcover. I really hope that they are in good condition. They usually use, when I have ordered from Adlibris before, the same kind of packaging as the book depository package was, so it was like wrapped around the book, but maybe one of them was so big that they couldn't fit in that together. So I just hope the dust jacket hasn't like ripped around the whole package. So the first thing we have is Delicious in Dungeon Volume 11. I've been waiting for this to get to my local manga store, but it hasn't, so I just ordered it online. I don't know how many volumes this series is going to have. It feels like this might be close to the end, and this is of course a comic fantasy manga series about a group of adventurers trying to save one of their group and also discover the mysteries of the dungeon while cooking and eating monsters. And then the final book is really pretty. It has survived beautifully, and it is Rin Rebecca's Silver Under Nightfall. It's about vampires. Lovely shining eye. But this is about a vampire hunter who gets entangled with these two vampires. I really love the colors on the cover. So that was my little book haul. There are still a couple of new releases that I want to order. I want to get The House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson, which is also a vampire book. And then I want the US cover edition of Babel by R.F. Kuang, but I can't find it anywhere. It seems that only Amazon has them, like they've had to do a lot of reprints for it because it has always gone out of stock. So I have seen that a couple of Amazon stores has it, but I haven't seen it anywhere else than on Amazon. And I really want the US cover. I found that some places might have the UK cover, of course, because we're in Europe, but I really wanted beautiful, beautiful US cover, and I don't want to order it from the US. That's a lot of shipping, so I'm just gonna wait and see if I can get that. But I have these for now. Vampire Space Goths Fantasy Adventurers. So that's it for the little haul part. I have finished The Hollow by Agatha Christie, and I really enjoyed this. I gave this 5 stars. If someone would ask me what is the best Poirot mystery, I wouldn't pick this one because Poirot is in this very little, and I don't think he's even that necessary. Like, you could have everything revealed without Poirot even being here. But what I really enjoyed about this was the description of the characters. Christie does it with such a sharp wit that I was reading it smiling the whole time. She describes things in a few sentences and I get what the character is like from that. One of my favorites was this sentence about John, who is a doctor. He had wanted a plain secretary with no nonsense about her, and she had got a plain secretary with no nonsense about her, but sometimes, illogically, John Christo felt aggrieved. I also like that there's this young student who has to spend the weekend with his relatives, and he's just thinking that how he hopes that his relatives would know how little he thinks of them. He's being very intellectual, and people, there's this artist woman who sits next to him at dinner and tries to make him speak something else than monosyllabic answers, and the way she does it is that she says something about a topic that he's interested in that she knows is wrong. So for the rest of the dinner, he gives a lecture out of it. Then there's this old lady who wakes up in the morning and starts a conversation in her head on the way to another person's room, and then bursts into the room in the middle of the conversation, having imagined all the answers, and the other person has no idea what they're talking about. But this was a lot of fun. I did not figure out, I can't say that I figured out the murderer because I had so many suspects. I had motives for everyone. I did also suspect that person, but I suspected so many others too that I can't say that I figured it out. I can say that I don't think I have seen this episode or read this before, like I said, so nothing in this sparked my memory. And this means that it was time for roll number 4. Roll number 4. 5. We have broken the 9 curse. I was in the wrong spots when it started again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Third person perspective. So for roll number 4, I got third person perspective, which is a bit too wide a prompt for me. I want something that it's easy to pick a book for. This has so many options from my shelf. So I picked this prompt a couple of days ago and I haven't yet read anything for it. At first I was thinking about 2 options. I had The Test of the Twins by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, the third in the Dragonlance Legends, but this is a reread, so it wouldn't really be taking a book off my TBR. So at first I thought I would go with Blackwater Sister by Zen Jo, because it felt like something I would be able to read quickly, but I read the first chapter and a bit into the second one and I felt like I wasn't in the right mood for the book right now. And since then I have started a couple of things and none of them has stuck. I am thinking about breaking my rule of reading my own books and just reading a short novella like Sun Daughters, Sea Daughters by Amy Ogden, a Little Mermaid science fiction retelling. I have no idea what I'm going to read for this. So I think I will be back when I have finished something, and let's see if I have enough time for a 5th roll. So I have finally finished something for the third person perspective prompt. I did end up breaking my rule of only reading physical owned books. I did read a book on my Kobo for this, and this is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. Half a Soul is a fantasy of manners book that I've owned for a while. It has recently been picked up by Orbit for a traditionally published release, but it was self-published first, and I do own the self-published version, and I don't know if there's a lot of differences between the two. I did see on Goodreads that the Orbit version has a bit more pages, so it might have additional material, it might have changes to it, or it just might have a bigger font, so I don't know, but I really, really like this. This year I've been reading a lot of Fantasy of Manners, and Half a Soul is one of my favorites I've read this year, I think right after the Kingston cycle. This is about Theodora Ettings, Dora, who was cursed by a fairy when she was a kid, and she has no sense of fear or embarrassment. Her feelings are dulled, and she ends up joining her cousin for a London season where her cousin is trying to get a husband, and she meets the Lord Sorcier, like the state's head sorcerer, and he sort of starts to help Dora. And I love the fairies in this book. You might remember that I really like immoral fairies, like fairies who don't have the same sense of morality as humans do. They just function in a different way. And I really like the fairies in this, and I liked all the characters. I really felt immediately invested in them. I do have one nitpick, and that is that the author used the word bemused or bemusement in pretty much every chapter. So it became like spot the bemusement, and whenever I found it, I just paused a little. It's here again. I don't know if that has been changed in the traditionally published version, but that's just something that my brain noticed on the page every single time. But I gave Half a Soul 4 stars. It was so much fun. And I finished it the day before the end of Bookoplathon, so I had time for one more roll. So let's get to it. My final roll number 5, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I landed on under 300 pages, a short book. This is perfect. So Bookopoly chose the perfect prompt for me. I got a short book with 1 day left to go, and I was on a train ride for the last day of September, so I picked up a short novella, which was Brambles by Intisar Kanani. This is like a 40-page novella that takes place before Thorn, which is a Goose Girl retelling, a YA book that I read and really enjoyed, and I want to move on to reading the second book in the series that I think is following different characters. Brambles is a prequel about the main character of Thorn. It tells this event that was mentioned in Thorn, and it's about her living with her family, having a hard time. I really enjoy reading Intisar Kanani. I really like the writing, but Brambles, it focuses on a tough topic. It's about domestic abuse or abuse between siblings, and you sort of get the idea already from Thorn of what has happened. I can't say that I enjoyed it. I'm happy that I read it because I like reading Intisar Kanani, but it sort of wasn't necessary in my opinion. But I did finish reading something under 300 pages, so I won Bookopoly. So Bookopoly has now ended. It is the first days of October when I am filming this, and I finished 5 prompts. I read 3 books of my physical TBR, and then I read 2 ebooks. 2 of the books that I read were mysteries and 3 were fantasy. So the mysteries I read were The Appeal by Janice Hallett for buildings on the cover, and The Hollow by Agatha Christie for features a mystery. This one got 2 stars, this one I gave 5 stars. Then as for the fantasies, I finished The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I was halfway through already. I gave this one 3 stars. Then I read 2 fantasy ebooks. I read Half a Soul for third-person perspective, and I gave it 4 stars. And then I read Brambles by Intisar Kanani for a short book, and I didn't rate this one. So that was my Bookoplathon. Let me know how you did if you took part, or just leave me a book pile emoji in the comments to tell me that you were here. But that's all from me for now, and I'll see you in my next video.